Hi, my name is Tyler Mowry, and welcome to the Writer's Mind Podcast, episode 27. All right, welcome everyone to yet another episode of the Writer's Mind Podcast. If you are looking for the even episodes, podcast 28, all the other even episodes, you can find them on the Patreon, patreon.com/thewritersmind. Today, I want to talk about something I've been reading about a little bit, about morning routines, and about beliefs about your morning. This sort of stuff. I was reading this book. It's called The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. I don't know if you've noticed, but I know that certain people are kind of anti books that would be like in the self-help genre and that sort of thing. I'm not necessarily anti those books. I actually read a pretty good chunk of them. And of course, there's good ones and there's bad ones, and just like anything, there's good screenwriting books, there's bad screenwriting books. So you kind of pick the ones that are good, or try to find the helpful information, and kind of go from there, right? So, a guy I know recommended this book to me, and so I have actually had a lot of trouble starting up my mornings. It's easy for me to. I get up at 8 pretty much every day, but then what happens is I kind of meander a little bit, and then I really kind of start my workday fairly late, 10:30, 11, that sort of thing, right? Because then I'm, working and beginning my day and doing different things. And I like having a slow morning sometimes. It's enjoyable. It's enjoyable to just kind of enjoy my morning. But I also don't like the feeling of not having time. Sometimes I feel like I don't have time to actually get into the work that I want to do. I get half of it done, or, I complete half of my goals for the day. And so that is something that I have kind of wanted to fix for a little while. And so when I saw this book, I was like, oh, okay, I'll pick it up. Why not? So I was reading it, and at this point I'm about halfway through, if you can see that on YouTube. I'm about halfway through, and so far my review on it is that, most of the concepts in it are pretty just middle of the road, kind of things that you may have heard before from different, self-help books and stuff. Not untrue, but, some general stuff that you may have heard before. But there has been some kind of interesting stuff in this book. So let me open this up. I really need to get a mic stand, don't I? I think that would help with some of, if I'm going to open books all the time, it would probably help. So essentially what he talks about is he kind of has some things you should do in your morning, and then he talks about, why most people fail at changing their life, these sorts of things, personal development and personal growth things that you may have heard before. But one thing that was really, really interesting that he talked about was kind of relating to something that I have been talking about and thinking about, not only on this podcast, but just kind of in my general daily life, which is about beliefs and your perception about your reality and how that does legitimately change your world. And, I talked about that on the podcast a few episodes ago. And so when he mentioned something that was kind of in that frame, I was like, oh, this is really interesting. So he says, let's see, let's find it here. Okay. So what he's talking about is, okay, so he says, when you hit the snooze button in the morning, you're actually in a state of resistance to your day. So he's talking about your mindset on waking up is, that you have to wake up rather than you want to wake up, right? You're not excited. You'd rather sleep. You're not excited about what you are doing in your day. And because of that, you always feel tired in the morning. You don't actually feel like you want to get up and go, and that sort of thing. And one thing that he relates it to is he talks about Christmas morning, if you celebrate Christmas, where if you were a kid, or think about another, if you didn't celebrate Christmas, think about another, exciting day in your childhood, right? Where no matter how much you slept the night before, the second you were awake, like you were out of bed, you were ready to go. This is a huge day. You're pumped. You're excited. It's going to be fun, right? And so he says, regardless of your level of sleep, you always feel that kind of energy. And so one of the things he says here is, now he talks about he's not a sleep expert in these sorts of things, but he's done his own, experiments in this sort of thing. And he said that I found that our sleep affects I found that how our sleep affects our biology is largely affected by our own personal belief about how much sleep we need. So essentially what he's talking about is he ran some different experiments, and he says that, whether you get 6 hours of sleep, 8 hours of sleep, 10 hours of sleep, that a lot of the time your feeling towards waking up depends on how well rested you feel, how energized you feel. So a lot of the time, people who consistently get 6 hours of sleep, for example, can feel more energy than somebody who's getting 8, 9, 10 hours of sleep, right? And so his point of view is that a lot of this is based upon our belief about our next day, our belief about how our life is going as a whole, and how that actually translates into how much resistance we have for waking up in the morning. And so he says, he's like, if you believe you need 8 hours of sleep to feel rested, but you're getting into bed at midnight and you have to wake up at 6, you're likely to tell yourself, geez, I'm only going to get 6 hours of sleep and I need 8, and I'm going to feel exhausted in the morning. And so as soon as your alarm clock goes off, you feel that feeling. You feel that exhausted feeling. And so he says that it's a self-fulfilling, self-sabotaging prophecy. That if you tell yourself you're going to be tired in the morning, then you absolutely are going to feel tired. If you believe that you need 8 hours of sleep to feel rested, then you're not going to feel rested on anything less. And then he says, but what if you changed your beliefs? So, this is something that goes back down to this idea that we have talked about on this podcast, where your beliefs can create your reality. And we talk about how intense is that? How fundamental are your beliefs to your actual reality, right? Can you, like all the way down to sort of this level where it's like, does your biology potentially change or react against your particular beliefs about a given thing? Now, of course, it's possible to say, oh, well, that, beliefs don't have that big of an effect on what we do. But what's interesting is that statement in and of itself is a belief. That is really an assumption that you have made based upon evidence that other people have gathered and then told you how things are, right? So this goes back to the whole first principles thinking idea that we talked about earlier in the podcast. And it also goes back to this idea within that first principles episode that I talked about. I don't know if that was on the Patreon or if that was the public podcast. But reasoning by analogy. You are taking the story from someone else and assuming that they got it right, they fully got it, they understood it, and you are taking what they say at face value without doing your own research. And so, sure, it is possible to say, oh, well, of course you can't change your biology, or of course if your body actually needs 8 hours of sleep, of course you're always going to feel, exhausted on 6. But that, is a belief, and he, kind of did his own tests on this, which you can read about more in the book if you decide to buy it. Not sponsored or anything, of course. And, essentially come to your own conclusions on this, right? And so for me, as somebody who tries his best to reason from first principles thinking and tries his best to, take things as they are and then kind of do my own testing on it, I decided to kind of try this out. So I've been very, very within the process of, I literally read half the book and was like, okay, this evening I'm going to try this system. So kind of what he outlines, you can read more about it, but kind of talks about setting intention in the evening, having a specific morning routine you go through for the first hour of your day, and essentially getting you excited for the next day in the evening, and then kind of carrying that energy into your day, and that sort of thing. And so I thought it was kind of an interesting way to look at it that was very much a mindset and perception level of it, because if he was just going to say, when you get up in the morning, do 10 jumping jacks so that you can get your blood flowing and that'll make you feel energized. It's like, okay, well, I've sort of heard things like that before, but it doesn't really solve whatever the core issue is that is making it harder to really get up and go in the mornings. And so this sort of mindset shift, I've been like, hey, understand on the larger scale, why are you excited to get up in the morning? What is your life about? And are you excited? If you're not excited about getting up in the morning, and there is no reason for you to be excited about getting up in the morning, well, then you have a larger issue than not being able to get up early in the morning. You have a life level issue about what do you want to do with your life? Are you wasting your life away doing things that you don't want to do, or not even doing things you don't want to do now so that you can eventually do things you want to do later? Are you setting any sort of goals? Are you doing any of this? And so I thought it was a really interesting way to look at it. Another thing that he says, this is pretty much what I said here, but he says, the miracle morning, which is what this book is called, is largely about recreating that experience of waking up feeling energized and excited, and doing it every single day of your life for the rest of your life. It's about getting out of bed with a purpose, not because you have to, but because you genuinely want to, and dedicating time each day to developing yourself and the person you want to be. So now, you can take that and say, he is simply just giving some self-help tips, and self-help tips don't work, and so then I won't try any of this, or I won't read something new, or whatever. I understand that position, but I would challenge you as somebody, as a writer's mind listener, as somebody who is a critical thinker, as somebody who is striving to think from first principles, somebody who is striving to do their own thinking and do their own research and kind of make their own mind up on things. It's possible that it would be something you should look into. So I did it. I've done it for just a few days this week, and so far I found it enjoyable. So I've been getting up at 6 a.m. And I have a set kind of first hour of the day routine based upon kind of this book that I'm doing. And I have an evening statement that I have written out that I read in the night to say, okay, I am excited about what I'm doing tomorrow for these reasons. This is, where I'm trying to go. This is why I'm excited to be up tomorrow. So when my alarm goes off, I'm actually excited to be up. I'm not going to be frustrated or annoyed or feeling that resistance. And so doing it for a few days is definitely not enough time to say, oh, this is something that is totally working and totally changing my life. I can't say that yet, but I do think it's a great way to look at your mornings, and it's something that I haven't thought about, and it's something that wasn't a tactic. It's something that wasn't a quick fix kind of thing, do some jumping jacks and keep going. It was a different way of looking at it, right? And I really think finding those sorts of things are very interesting, and I think very helpful, right? I think a lot of people tend to stay away from things when somebody's talking about mindset, or somebody is talking about this sort of thing of changing your life or following your dreams, or it's about mindset. And it's easy to get caught up in a kind of a culture of people saying generalized garbage to sell you things. And so I understand that, of course. But as somebody who has worked to build some things and has worked to adjust my beliefs and apply changes in perception and apply changes in assumptions and changes in beliefs, I feel like I have seen great improvement by actually changing and applying that change of certain beliefs. So as somebody who is consistently trying to do that and is consistently encountering false beliefs and false assumptions that I have about things, about myself or about the world, and then trying to shift those based on first principles, I feel like I can tell you that it's something you should take a look at. And if you're listening to somebody screaming at you on YouTube about how it's all mindset, maybe don't start there. But to totally cut off the idea of self-improvement or self-help as beneficial to you, I just don't see that as a valid idea at all. There is a lot of great information that can be found from people that are talking about adjusting your mindset and adjusting your belief systems. So I think what's also interesting is your mindset compounds, right? If you actually are having beliefs and then changing your opinion on a given belief that you have and changing your mindset, what happens is you actually see a compounding of that effect. And then what happens is when you encounter false beliefs in the future, you are able to move through them at a faster pace because you understand that, okay, I have previously worked through false beliefs. Of course, I still have some. And then when I encounter one and somebody gives me an explanation on why this is a false belief, I can use the fact that I have learned how to change my beliefs to change this faster. So in this example, I read halfway through this book and got through his main point so far, which is the changing your belief on your morning essentially alters the beginning of your day, which can alter the rest of your day, which can then make a difference in your life. And because I have done the work previously on changing some of my false beliefs, I was like, okay, great, this is something I can try. And I can experiment on my own and legitimately give it a real try and not a begrudging try or not a, oh, this doesn't work, this is just a mindset thing. Actually give it a try and then see results from that. And still very new at it. I also don't think habit-wise, because this is also a habit-building thing and, a changing of circadian rhythms and all of that. And I would say anytime you're doing something that's habit-based, I would say the first real marker that you're making progress would be 1 to 2 weeks. So being 3 days in, you can't say, oh, this is changing my life. You just can't. I would say really post 30 days is the real marker where you can say, oh, this is something I'm actually integrating into my routine. And this is something that is easier and easier and easier for me to do. There's a lot of things that are like that. And especially with things that are habit building, just like I talked about mindset and changing your false beliefs when you encounter them and how you're able to move faster through that process when you have previously changed false beliefs. Routine and habit building also works the same way. I think when you have previously built habits and you've previously worked to build habits for a long time, then it's easier to build the new habit because you understand the process. Of course, building a new habit is still frustrating and a pain, and it takes a lot of your attention for a while as you're building it. But then once it's built, a lot of ways you can kind of leave it on autopilot because it's now in your system. It's in your day-to-day. Your body is used to doing a certain thing. Your brain is used to doing a certain thing. And so then you can continue doing it. So, for example, I think building my YouTube channel helped me stay more consistent going to the gym when I was initially struggling to go to the gym regularly. It was just, and of course it took time to build, and it took time to build kind of a consistent routine where I knew that I was going to the gym every week, 4 to 6 times a week. And that came from previous habits and building previous habits. And so I think also in this sense, the gym is a great place to start. If you're somebody that has, no real momentum in their career, let's say, no real momentum in their writing If if you're following this channel, it's very likely you're a writer, or you're following this podcast, it's very likely you're a writer. If you don't have any real routines built up, if you don't have any of that, I think the gym is a great place to start, because it's a very clear long-term indicator, and it also takes time to see any sort of results. So it's very easy to go to the gym for 2 to 3 months and not really see any results, and you're only building a habit. And when you're doing that and you're only building a habit, it takes a lot of attention. And then once you have that built, it can kind of just occupy a space in the back of your head, because now you kind of want to do it, and it is something that you want to do regularly, and it is kind of built into your schedule, so there's a time slot for it now. And then suddenly it's a lot easier for you to go consistently. And you also have built the base knowledge of routines and moving weight in a particular way and mind-muscle connection, and you just build such a huge base of knowledge in the first 3 months period of doing something new. That also helps you maintain a habit later on. So that's some just kind of actionable thing. If you're somebody that's struggling with changing your beliefs, if you're somebody that's struggling with habit building, if you're somebody that's struggling in any of these areas, writing is a great place to start too, because it's literally just you in front of a computer. If you can't tell yourself, even for a month, like set yourself a challenge up, okay, 30 days straight, I'm going to write one single page of my script. Just one page, I'm going to get it out, one page every day for 30 days. If you can't really truly commit to that, then you're probably not cut out to be a writer. Now, you don't have to write every day. I think it's very beneficial for you to write every day, especially when you're in a project. But, you don't have to, but it is super, super helpful. In regards to writing every day, I think if you are like currently working on a draft, like the day you start working on a draft, I think you should, as much as possible, write every day until it's finished. Because the second you skip a day or skip a couple days, then suddenly you end up like everybody else in writing who writes 28 pages of a story, and then 3 months go by and they have 28 pages. And not, of course, you can take breaks in between projects because you're not writing anything then. But that's kind of how I think you should do it. And so if you're kind of currently in the midst of a draft, and especially if you're currently in the midst of struggling to build any sort of habits, struggling to build the base level mindset of you can do things, you can put effort into things and see results, then writing one page a day for 30 days, I think would be huge for you. So, that, of course, that somewhat relates to this book, but not fully. But it is a lot of habit building. And I think a lot of life can become habit building. If you want to make solid gains in your career, that's going to be built off of habits, of you consistently putting effort in when nobody is telling you to. If you are trying to make consistent gains in the gym and see growth in the gym, then it's going to be you putting in effort when nobody is telling you to and you're not seeing any results. If you want to grow a YouTube channel, it's going to be you putting a lot of effort in for a long time and nobody's going to be watching you and you're not going to be seeing any results, and you're going to be like, what is this for? I mean, I can't tell you how many times I almost turned my channel off, honestly. Fun story, actually. I'll just tell you this. For people who are struggling to build habits, struggling to see results, unsure of what they're trying to do. Back when I was starting out my YouTube channel, and I think I had something like, 400 subscribers, something like that. I had less than 1,000, so maybe it was 800, something like that. But the point was I had less than 1,000, and I had been making videos for 6 months every week. Every week for 6 months, I was making a video essay, just me, all the writing, doing all the editing. I was also in college. At the time, I was just kind of making videos on things I was interested in, different filmmaking techniques and this sort of stuff. And, just video essays. And I had under 1,000 subscribers, and I was like, it's fine. I'm just kind of continuing to work. One day, I was looking at YouTube, and I noticed there was this new video up from this totally new channel. And the video had like 12,000 views. And I was like, oh, shoot. And it was called Gone Girl, Don't Underestimate the Screenwriter. And it was from this new channel called Lessons from the Screenplay. So this time I think my channel was 6 to 8 months old, somewhere in that range. And this new channel had come along called Lessons from the Screenplay. And I was like, oh, cool. So I watched this video and I was like, this video is fantastic. I love this guy's editing. I love this guy's writing. This is a great video. And so I go over to his channel and I realize, oh my gosh, he has one video. This is the first video he's ever put out. He got 12,000 views on this video. And I'm looking at his subscriber count. And at the time, I remember specifically, it was like he had like 1,200 subscribers. And I was like, oh my gosh, day one, this guy put out a video and has instantly over 1,000 subscribers. He has more subscribers than me. And I was like, that's crazy. And I was like, that kind of stinks. I wish my channel was growing faster, but you know what? This guy made a great video. Props to him. That's cool. And I was excited to see what he did next. I subscribed that day. And shout out listeners from the Screenplay. What's up, Michael? I doubt he's ever going to see this. But so then, I don't know if it was a week later or what. I can't remember the exact timeline. But I went back to this video. It had to have been less than 2 weeks later. And his video had like over 50,000 views. Maybe it had 100,000 views. The video had exploded. And his channel had like over 10,000 subscribers. Insane numbers. One video, crazy amounts of views, 10,000 subscribers within, the first month of starting this channel. And I almost stopped making YouTube videos. It crushed me. Because I was like, I just suck at this. What's the point? I should, this guy now created a great video. I wasn't mad at him for being better at me. I was mad that I wasn't good enough to, gain a following and good enough to actually make videos that people wanted to watch. I wasn't hating on Michael for making a good video and having a good channel. I was very happy that he was doing that. I was upset at myself because I was not, operating at that level. And I literally remember I was watching his video and I went and I watched one of my videos and I was just like, his writing is better. His editing is better. Everything he's doing is just leagues ahead of me. Of course, his channel is going to grow faster. He's making better videos. And I was like, maybe I should just be done. But clearly I didn't. That was a low. And I was just like, think about it, right? I was just some guy making some videos. I had less than 1,000 subscribers. It's not like I had some real momentum. And it's not like I was at 6,000 subscribers and being like, oh, it's okay. Like I can keep growing. Like nobody was watching my stuff. I was getting 110 views a video or something. And, but I decided like, well, I'm going to keep doing this for me because I want to grow and I want to get better at this. And like at the end of the day, like I'm just kind of on my own path here. And if that means that this kind of doesn't go anywhere, then that's fine. But I just decided to keep making videos and I'm very happy I did. And so, congratulations to Lessons from the Screenplay and all the success that he and his team has had. I have watched, I think, every video they've ever made. If not, maybe I haven't seen, a couple of them. But a fantastic channel. If you don't know about Lessons from the Screenplay, I'd be surprised, honestly. Absolutely go subscribe. Go watch Michael and his team's videos. Great stuff. But yeah, I stuck through it. I'm very happy to be where I am now. And, those kinds of lessons, genuinely, people talk about lessons they learned and they'll maybe like, oh yeah, it was so hard. Like the lessons I took, like genuinely, I look back at that and I think like, okay, that really sucked. But I came through the other side of that and I kept pushing. And so when I encounter problems now, I can remember that kid as a sophomore in college about to turn his YouTube channel off because, he felt like he was terrible at this. And I can say, you know what? Like, I can keep pushing. I can keep moving. The problems I'm encountering today are, just more of the same when problems come. So it comes down to, really, I think, it comes down to you making a decision on what you want to do. At the end of the day, people give you mindset tactics, and they will give you, do jumping jacks in the morning, or, go to the gym parking lot so that you'll go inside, all these sort of ways to kind of help you get into a habit or help you get into a mindset. But at the end of the day, you have to just freaking choose. Like, that is really what it comes down to. At the end of the day, you have to say kind of, do you want to do this or not? So, and if you're going to, if you're going to give up on something every time it gets difficult, screenwriting is definitely not for you. Starting a YouTube channel is not for you. Going, making gains in the gym or something like that is definitely not for you. So that's what I've got for you this week. And I will see you guys next week.